I finally got the engine removed from the S10. There it is. Finally understand. Working to get it on to that stand. Not that, that's my hoist. But one of the things that I'm going to do after I push this outdoors is, as you can see, the engine bay is in need of some cleanup, so we're going to break out the pressure washer and get that bay cleaned up before we reinstall the engine or even do the engine tear down. Might also end up replacing, I don't know if you can see that right there. Got a torn bushing just on the outside. As you can see right there. Might end up replacing that. So if you're doing this, folks, as you well know, once everything is out of the way, that's a good time to take a look at anything else that is usually crowded and unseen and go ahead and make plans to replace it. One of the things that I discovered was the driver's side motor mount, not the mount right there, but the one on the engine, was actually torn and came off in two pieces. So a pair of motor mounts are going to be in the works on the reassembly for the S10. But for right now, I'm going to go ahead and push this outside. There's a huff and puff. No matter what surface your vehicle is parked on, be sure that it is clear of all debris, leaf litter, and things of that nature. Leaves trap moisture. They also provide cover for insects and vermin, which can make their way into your project vehicle, wreaking all kinds of havoc. So even when you park it outside, after you got it cleared, go out there periodically and blow the leaves away to keep your project clean. You can also go a long way in helping you complete your project by cleaning the engine even prior to assembly, as well as the engine bay. Use any type of commercial degreaser. I happen to like Awesome from the dollar store because it's inexpensive and it's actually very effective. Even if you don't have a pressure washer, you can use a hose, garden hose, with a strong stream of water. Just spray your degreaser on the parts liberally. Let it sit, let it work, then rinse it off. Repeat if you have to. This will make your machinist very happy to receive clean parts so that he doesn't have to do extra work to get your parts clean for your final assembly. Maybe on this side for a quick view. Nothing special or spectacular, it's just that our oil filter boss has to come off in order to get this bolt off so I can remove the oil pan. Gotta love power tools. And these battery operated Ryobi, no, I'm not sponsored. But when I bought it. And they're not bad tools. There is not a lot of material in the bottom, just the usual sludge that you would expect. How about that? Quite a bit of movement. All right, there's a close-up shot of the #1 journal. And if you can see, let me get my pointer, which is just a Sharpie. You can see this is the top of the journal. This bearing has actually worn a groove. From up here to down here, which tells me that I have not been so fortunate on this one. It's probably well past 10. Looking more like 20. So this crank is either going to have to be reworked or replaced. That's life in the big city, but you know what? Stuff happens, you know? Stuff happens. You just kind of have to roll with it. But spun bearing, don't know why, don't know how it happens. I had it happen on another vehicle that I had years ago. And when the bearing spun, it actually stopped the engine, so there was no damage. As you heard, this one was just rocking and rolling back and forth. In fact, I'm willing to bet that this wear is oblong, higher on one side than it is on the other, so it's like an eccentric as it rotates, which probably has to do with the translation from top dead center and bottom dead center. So anyway, here we go. This saga is going to continue. Now that I know what I'm facing, I gotta go get some more tools from the rental tool I don't have store. There's nothing, I don't have it in my inventory. In order to pull the bottom end out and go ahead and do what I gotta do. So I guess we gotta hunt some parts. Oh, the other thing we gotta get along the way, where is it? There we go. Motor mount on the driver's side was torn, so we'll just replace both of them. Left side and right side is just good a time as any. It's out of the vehicle. No, this one isn't torn completely, but it's rocking and rolling. So, word of advice, anything that you think needs to be replaced after you go through this amount of work to get something out, go ahead and replace it now. Yes, I'm trying to cheap out on the repair by not popping off the cylinder heads, not doing the cylinder heads, but anything else that needs to be replaced, go ahead and replace it while you got it out of the vehicle. Life will be that much easier for you. Stay tuned. We got more coming. Thank you folks for dropping by. We'll see you. Time to get to begin this process of building the S10 engine. Well, the first things that I've had to do is to resurrect this parts cleaner. I don't have a very large one because the garage is kind of small here. However, you know, there's a lot of debate, people asking about what type of parts cleaning solution should be used in your system. Use the one for your particular style of parts cleaner. This particular tabletop model requires the use of solvent-based degreaser. So I'm using a recipe called Edge Red, which is basically equal amounts of Dexron 2 or 3 transmission fluid, acetone, kerosene, and mineral spirits. It's actually quite effective. I've been soaking some of these in parts cleaner. What I've already done, just to give you an idea, this is what the piston looked like prior to cleaning. And here's the results of just some light scrubbing with a brush and having the solvent solution run over the top of the piston while I used a brush to agitate it. So that's quite effective. Now, in beginning the assembly of the engine, one of the things that you have to do is you have to clean the grooves of your pistons out before you assemble with new piston rings for your particular build. And the reason why is, I don't know if you can see it right there, but that's an oil ring. Let me see if I can get this a little better. This is one of the compression rings. As you can see, there's a bit of residue right here that has built up. Now, over time, that residue will build up in the grooves of the piston. I'll get it out. And impede the piston ring's ability to expand and contract as the gases will ignite, pushing down on this piston. They also push down on the rings, go between these lands right here, and cause the ring to expand outward as the piston travels up and down in the cylinder. Improper oil changes and not running a proper air filter can cause these to get clogged up. And of course, on a rebuild situation, you want to eliminate that. So it isn't even necessary to go out and rent, although you can do that. You can actually go out and rent a piston ring groove cleaner. Here's the cheap fix. Take one of the old piston rings that came off of the piston, break it, use the sharp edge, and simply clean the groove until there is no more residue left. Now, depending on your piston type, you may have to get a light to add to the subject in order to see properly. And then just clean it like you would anything else before assembly. Now, don't forget, if you're using any type of solvent that strips all the oil out of it, be sure to lube it with some type of spray lube in order to prevent it binding up and ease of operation. But these have been soaking in my solution for about maybe an hour, and just with a light brushing, all the residual oil and residue comes off very, very easily. Here's another saving tip. If you don't have a modified parts cleaning brush, go to the dollar store of your choice, and back in the kitchen section and cleaning section, these are available. Cheap. Cheap enough that if they fall apart, you're not going to be out too much money at all. So that's what I'm using as my parts degreaser and my solution to get my piston ring groove lads cleaned out and prepped for installation of the new piston rings before they go into the short block on the S10. Gotta get little Debbie going again. Don't forget, we also got the 302. It was done a little bit differently because we got brand new pistons. Wow. That comes off really easily. Very nice, very nice. So simple solution. Equal parts kerosene, acetone, mineral spirits, transmission fluid. Very effective. Now it's time to go ahead and work on assembly of the short block. In order to do that, we have to get the piston rings installed. That's what I'm going to show you right now. Now, the piston rings that I purchased for this particular build, of course, from CO Power, and that part number E920K as in kilo. Important thing to remember when you're ordering your parts, because I've gone through this twice with manufacturers. For this particular build, there are two different styles of piston ring groove width. One is a narrow ring, it's basically what you see here, and the other one is a wider 5/16 ring. Know which ring that you are ordering and specify that with your particular vendor, whomever that may be. So they made a mistake, though I ordered for the correct year, they sent the incorrect ones. I'll lay that blame squarely on me. And then to top it all off, they actually doubled the order. So I got two sets of piston rings that'll fit a small block Chevrolet. Oh well, we move on. Anyway, when you get your piston rings, they will be packaged, in this case, as you see right here, in these nice little cellophane markers, but they will all be marked. They'll say number 1, top groove, second groove, and then you're finally going to have the third groove, which will be your oil control ring, and it will consist of your wiper ring there and the two steel rings, which will be doubled for however many cylinders that you have in your particular engine that you're doing. Now, this doesn't necessarily apply to Chevrolet. This can apply to practically every piston engine out there when it comes to piston rings. What you have to keep in mind and understand is your particular ring is designed to go on its particular space in a particular orientation. It could be that the ring that you have will be beveled. I don't know if you can see that edge very clearly or whatnot. Let's see what happens if I get closer. But piston rings may be shaped. They may have a beveled edge. Let me get my fancy pointer. They may have a beveled edge along the inside here. You can see right there where the pointer is. Or some other type of shape that requires a particular orientation. It may look as though the ring will go on either way, and actually it will. But depending on your manufacturer, your particular type of ring, it is designed to go in, it may be designed to go rather, in a particular orientation. To facilitate that, sometimes they will clearly state in the instructions that the beveled edge will go to the top of the ring land, or facing the top of the piston in this direction, or whatever is required. Failure to do this can result in your piston rings not functioning in the way that they should. In my case, this is a moly top ring. As you can see, this ring has a shiny face to it as opposed to a cast type of ring. Now, that's this particular one. Now the second ring, just take a look at this edge right here, and you'll see it does not have a shiny face because this is just a ductile iron ring. It does, however, have an orientation mark. I don't know if I clearly get that seen. Let's see if we get it zoomed in, maybe. And there's my phone call. This second ring actually has a dimple in it, which means in this case that this dimple is oriented upward. In other words, it's going to go to the top of the piston. The oil control ring is another area that must be paid attention to according to your particular application. Now, in some instances, you will note that the oil control ring may be actually butted together in its groove, or it may be overlapped. Again, check your instructions, check your applications, and do so accordingly. Another issue that may come into play when it comes to the oil control ring itself is the orientation of what I'll call the ring stops. On each of these channels that you'll see right here, for lack of a better word, peaks and valleys, there is a small ridge, and that ridge is actually designed to keep the steel portion of the ring in place. Again, your instructions may vary. This ridge may go up or it may be turned down. It simply depends on your particular application. Again, pay attention to the instructions for your particular application. Now, installing these is actually quite easy. In fact, even though they make specialized tools to do installation, it's not always necessary. Now, just FYI, in my instance, my oil control ring has the tangs, retention tanks, that's a nice word for it, yeah, sound real professional, has the retention tanks facing downward. So I'm going to install this oil control ring in this third groove and simply wind it around, and there it meets and simply butts to itself. Voila. Now, on the steel portion of the oil control rings, it's not even necessary to orient them up or down. Simply insert them accordingly. Start with the bottom groove first, if you want to, and just wind it around. And slide it up until it locks in place. Hey, that was perfect timing. Ding. And the winner is. And do the same for the upper portion of the oil control ring, or maybe oil control ring set. Make sure that it's in the groove and seated properly. There you have it. Oil control ring installed. 3-piece set. Now it's just a simple matter of remembering once again the orientation. This one is my dot faces upward. Again, no special tool. Hey, this is just perfect. Keep digging for me. Cool. No special tool required. Simply insert it into the groove, one open end,
pull slightly and just walk it around the piston. I get it in the camera view. There we go. Walk it carefully around the piston. Now, certainly, if you have the funds to get the tool that facilitates installing these, by all means, go right ahead. Do that. But just demonstrating that you don't necessarily always need to buy a specialized tool. And here at the Doorbox Garage, we specialize in doing things on the cheap. Now, finally, my top ring. Installed the same way. Just start rolling it. Let's get the camera again. There we go. Rolling it into the upper groove. In this case, it does not have a dimple indicating that this one can go in any direction. Now, you'll notice that there's a gap right here and right here. And there are also 3 separate gaps in the oil control ring, one for the top, one for the wiper ring, and then one third one for the bottom. There are a lot of videos online where people are talking about where to put these control rings. Good rule of thumb, just set them about 180 degrees apart. That way, gases will not go down, slide past everything if you have it in line, is the theory as it goes. So, but I've always simply lined each ring 180 degrees apart and also made sure that my oil control rings did not butt up against each other in the same location either, also placing them 180 degrees apart. Now, and there you have it. You're done with installing the piston rings. Now you simply have to repeat that for the other 5 or 7 or 9 or 11. Wow, 11. Gee. Who knows? Anyway, that's it. That's how you install the piston rings, which are then ready to set up into your block. Now, here's a little handy dandy something. Well, I don't know that I can actually show that anyway. There's another item that can make life a lot easier when it comes to keeping things organized, and it's of the 1 liter variety. I'll just show you what I did. I'm not recommending that you go out and commandeer or appropriate or what's another nice adjective? But you know, you can find these lying around at the places you can imagine, and just be nice and ask. They'll probably let you have it. But they come in extremely handy, and they are actually big enough to hold even up to a big block piston. Now, you might need to go with the 2 liter to get some of these other big mountain motor pistons in there. But during this process, I've used this tray along with just a plastic bag to keep everything sealed and assembled. So there you go. And it's the same thing with the engine block. Yes, they make covers that you can buy from Name Your High Performance Automotive Parts Store. But my 13-gallon kitchen trash bag works just fine. That is something I already have. So there you have it. There's a couple of inexpensive tips for you and your engine build.
Now over here at the block, let me share something with you, particularly when it comes to mounting the engine block. Because I chose to not have some machine work done, I saved a little bit of, not have certain work done at the machine shop. I'm doing it here myself. I'm sitting up here searching for words like I'm lost. I know exactly what I'm trying to say. But what I'm getting to here, let's talk about mounting the head for the engine stand onto the block. What I want you to notice in this case is that as we call them, freeze plugs here at the cam valley, and for this motor, this one also, which is the rear of the block that houses the balance shaft, also has a bearing in it that is going to be replaced as well. And that's owing to the fact that this block had been washed. So wash in their hot tank system while it was at the machine shop before I had the line bore done. So anytime you have a wash job, a caustic wash job done, you have to replace the bearings. And that's what I'm going to be doing. So one of the things that I noted is, let me see if I can do this without too much trouble. I'm going to turn just sideways for a second. This particular stand actually has a hole that goes all the way through. If the block were able to be positioned in such a way, I could have literally driven that plug and the cam bearing out. However, the head will not allow positioning, proper positioning like that, to get that as a complete through design to punch this out and to do the installation. Now, your particular engine stand may vary, so take that into account. Even the other one, the bigger stand that I have over there, the head does not have the through feature. Oh well, so life goes on. So what I simply did was raise the block up, as you can see right here on the adjustment. I raised the block up here so that I have complete access to that plug and the cam bearing valley in order to knock out and install the camshaft bearings and the balance shaft bearing. One thing to keep into account when you do this, if you have it mounted high like this, it doesn't take much to flip that bad boy over. Gravity does its thing. And if you have heads on it at that time, oh boy, watch out. So you might want to control the rotation when it's that time. I did that just for demonstration purposes to show you how quickly it will flip over when it is high. Of course, if you move this center, if you move the block just a little bit higher, it doesn't rotate as quickly. As for cam installation tools, I chose this particular model. It's one of the Speedway brands. They can also be found in eBay and Amazon under any other name. And this was of course always the least expensive model. Simple device. It has the solid steel rod, the aligning installer, as well as the installer remover end. Now what differentiates this is, as soon as I get this popped off, there we go. The cam bearing is going to be held in place
Sorry for the rough video. Cam bearing is going to be held in place by this rubber ring that you see here. And there's also one inside that provides tension on the end of the shaft when you're installing, or in this case, we're knocking it out. All one has to do is to slide that in place. Now, you might want to put some type of light lubricant on there just to ease installation and removal. When it comes time to do that, there's quite a bit of tension with that O-ring, which is actually pretty good. But let's go over here. I'm going to show you how we uninstall some cam bearings. Now, as you can remember at the table, I've already knocked out, look at my fancy pointing tool here, the first and second position, don't know if you can see that too clearly, and second position rings. Now we have to go to the, follow the pointer, this third bearing right here. Now, in order to knock this out, you cannot take this tool and just go one side, then the inside, then just keep going. You can, but there's the opportunity to scratch up and scar everything. So I've elected to just remove it and slide the bearing in place until it's seated. Insert the tool properly till it is seated. Then the only thing left to do is to hold the alignment portion into that first journal and give a few love taps back here with the hammer of your choosing. Of course, BFH always works. Let's see if I get this thing knocked out. There we are. Cam bearing knocked out. Now each time you have to remove the tool in order to remove the bearing, and it's, trust me, it's not easy to take off by hand. So you might have to use some type of small pry tool, like a small blade screwdriver. I can locate one on the tool cart. Yeah, just might have to walk it around. As I said, it's not easy there. Now I'm going to knock out the freeze plug at the back first. Slide it in place. Hold it for alignment purposes. See if we can take y'all for a ride on that. Just for reference, there it is. And just like that, it gets knocked out the back. And that's pretty much it, plain and simple. And in a lot of cases, inexpensive. If you choose to do it yourself, or you can always pay the machine shop to do it. But I just wanted to show you what we did. In this case, what I've done. So, with that, I gotta sign out of here because I have to go work chasing airplanes. It's Willie at the No Box Garage. We'll see you.